Kanto quake. At 11:58 a.m. on the 1st of September, 1923, the most destructive earthquake in Japan's recorded history struck the Kanto region, encompassing Tokyo and Yokohama. With an estimated magnitude of 7.9 on the Richter scale, the ground shook for 4 to 10 minutes. While the initial destruction from building collapse was immense, it was soon overshadowed by the scale of the fires that erupted almost immediately afterward. This event became one of the deadliest natural disasters in modern Japanese history. The Kanto region lies at the intersection of the Philippine Sea Plate and the Amurian Plate, a highly active tectonic zone prone to intense geological disturbances. At the time, Japan was in the Taisho era, 1912–1926, a period marked by constitutional development, rapid industrialization, and urban growth. However, the lack of regulated urban planning and heavy reliance on flammable construction materials significantly increased the region's vulnerability. The earthquake struck just before noon, when many residents were preparing lunch. This timing triggered numerous fires that began in household kitchens. Intense tremors caused homes to collapse, roads to fracture, and flames to spread rapidly. In Tokyo's Ryogoku district, nearly 40,000 people who had gathered at a designated evacuation site perished in a firestorm. In Yokohama, fires devastated the port area, bringing maritime transportation to a halt. Landslides and aftershocks continued for days, further compounding the damage. The disaster claimed an estimated 100,000 to 143,000 lives, including nearly 40,000-inch Ryogoku alone. Approximately 570,000 buildings were either destroyed or severely damaged by the earthquake or fires. Critical infrastructure, including roads, electricity, water systems, and communication networks, was rendered inoperative. Both Tokyo and Yokohama were paralyzed. Industrial facilities, ports, schools, and hospitals suffered near total destruction. The Kanto disaster sent shockwaves through Japanese society. Widespread rumors falsely accused Korean and Chinese residents of exploiting the chaos, which sparked riots and violence. Thousands were reportedly killed by armed vigilante groups. The social unrest fueled increased militarization and stricter civil controls in the years that followed. Nonetheless, the Japanese government also viewed the disaster as an opportunity for national reconstruction. Urban planning initiatives such as the 1924 Tokyo Reconstruction Plan were introduced, focusing on modernization, standardized infrastructure, and the adoption of fire-resistant building materials. The 1923 Kanto earthquake became a cultural and institutional touchstone in Japan's disaster response history. The 1st of September was later designated as National Disaster Prevention Day, observed across the country each year. The tragedy also left a lasting impact on literature, film, and visual arts, becoming a powerful symbol of the fragile line between modern urban life and the unpredictable forces of nature. China. Floods. The 1931 floods in China, often referred to as the Great Yangtze Flood, rank among the most fatal natural disasters ever recorded. Occurring over several months, from July to November 1931, the catastrophe affected the Yangtze, Huai, and Yellow River basins. Depending on the source, the estimated loss of life ranges from 1 to 4 million people. Of these, hundreds of thousands were lost due to the direct impact of flooding, while the remainder succumbed to hunger, disease, and lack of aid. The submerged area ranged from 30,000 to 88,000 square kilometers, affecting over 50 million people, approximately 1/4 of China's population at the time. By the late 1922, China was under the loose control of the nationalist government, Kuomintang, which was struggling to maintain infrastructure after years of internal conflict. Levees and flood control systems were largely maintained by local communities and farmers, leaving them vulnerable to deterioration. The 1931 flooding was the result of a combination of natural factors. A heavy snowpack during the previous winter melted in spring. Extraordinary rainfall from June to August inundated some regions with more water than their annual average in just a few weeks. and an unusual concentration of 9 tropical cyclones occurred in July and August alone. These events overwhelmed the flood defenses along the Yangtze, particularly in Jiangsu, Anhui, Hubei, and Hunan provinces. A major levee breach at Gaoyou on the 26th of August alone resulted in the loss of over 200,000 lives overnight. The flood peaked in August 1931, when the Yangtze River reached record water levels not seen in over a century. Levees protecting major cities such as Wuhan, Hangzhou, and Nanjing were breached or overtopped, submerging entire urban districts. Wuhan remained isolated for over 100 days, with water levels reaching up to 6 meters in some areas. Around 15% of agricultural land in the middle and lower Yangtze basin was destroyed. The mass displacement caused widespread suffering, as millions were left homeless. Contaminated water sources led to outbreaks of cholera, dysentery, and typhoid across the region. The disaster even affected areas along the Songhua and Sungari rivers in northeast China, where floods of such scale had never been recorded. Reports indicate that between 1 and 4 million people perished. Of these, approximately 150,000 to 200,000 were lost during the flood's immediate impact, while the remainder died in the following months due to famine and disease. Along the Yangtze River alone, over 2,000 levees failed, allowing floodwaters to inundate densely populated regions such as the central China plain. It is estimated that 15% of the nation's rice crop was destroyed, and around 5 million homes were either washed away or severely damaged. The total material loss is difficult to quantify precisely, but modern economic analyses place it in the tens of billions of US dollars in today's value. The 1931 disaster marked a turning point in China's national understanding of water management and flood control. By 1935, centralized efforts to rebuild the levee system began, alongside preliminary studies for large-scale hydropower infrastructure. The government's limited capacity for crisis management and relief contributed to the growing influence of the communist movement in rural areas. This was also one of the earliest instances in which China appealed for and received large-scale international humanitarian aid, including from organizations like the American Red Cross. The legacy of the 1931 floods continues to influence Chinese culture and policy. In her memoirs, author Pearl S. Buck, who lived in China during the disaster, documented the despair of Yangtze Valley farmers. The event remains a case study in climate-related vulnerability and the intersection of environmental collapse and political instability in modern China. Today, it serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of disrupting the balance between human development and natural systems. It also played a formative role in shaping China's modern flood control policy, including landmark projects such as the Three Gorges Dam and the South-North Water Diversion Project. Bhola Cyclone. On the 13th of November, 1970, Cyclone Bhola, one of the deadliest tropical storms in recorded history, struck the coastal areas of East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, and parts of West Bengal, India. The cyclone caused an estimated 300,000 to 500,000 fatalities, most of which occurred in low-lying coastal regions of the Ganges Delta, an area characterized by high population density and limited disaster preparedness. At the time, East Pakistan was experiencing significant political instability. It remained under the loose administrative control of West Pakistan, which showed limited interest in the region's welfare. The geography of the area, a flat, low-lying deltaic plain, made it extremely vulnerable to storm surges. Although meteorological forecasts were issued prior to landfall, the region lacked an effective warning system and emergency infrastructure, leaving coastal communities with insufficient time to evacuate. Cyclone Bhola formed over the Bay of Bengal and rapidly intensified into a Category 3 storm, with wind speeds reaching 115 miles per hour, approximately 185 kilometers per hour. When it made landfall on the night of the 13th of November, the storm brought with it a massive tidal surge between 6 to 10 meters, 20-30 feet, overwhelming islands such as Manpura and Bhola, along with numerous coastal villages. These areas were submerged entirely, and tens of thousands of people lost their lives within hours. More than 400,000 homes, 20,000 fishing vessels, millions of livestock, and vast tracts of farmland were destroyed or swept away. The majority of lives lost were due to drowning during the nighttime storm surge. The absence of a functioning warning system, lack of safe shelters, and fragile infrastructure significantly increased the scale of the tragedy. Furthermore, the cyclone obliterated rice crops and fishing fleets, vital sources of livelihood, triggering widespread food insecurity in the months that followed. The Pakistani government's response was widely viewed as slow and inadequate, fueling public outrage in East Pakistan. This failure became a major political turning point, contributing directly to the Bangladesh Liberation War in 1971 and the eventual formation of an independent Bangladeshi state. The disaster also drew international attention to the urgent need for regional disaster preparedness. In the years that followed, Bangladesh built thousands of coastal cyclone shelters and implemented a more advanced early warning system. Bhola was not only a humanitarian catastrophe, it became a defining lesson in the intersection between natural disasters and political change. In Bangladeshi culture, the Bhola cyclone is remembered as a moment of tragic destiny, when both lives and the region's autonomy were swept away. The event has been extensively examined in global literature, academic studies, and documentaries as a catalyst for nationhood and a cornerstone case in the development of modern disaster risk reduction (DRR) policy worldwide.